Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Avantasia, a paranormal evening with the Moonflower Society, out October 21st on Nuclear Blast. This album has 11 tracks, 54 minutes in length, and this is the band's 9th full-length studio record. They are a German symphonic power metal band. From a design point of view, this record has a very classic approach. It falls in line with previous records from Avantasia and falls in line with albums from bands within the same genre. It starts off with an opening track that feels more like an intro due to its characteristics, how different it is from a sound point of view and even from a vocal performance from what the rest of the album is going to be. But it also allows you to better understand how you're going to get introduced to this record. It eases you into the album. Then in the middle of the record, separated by a song, you have two ballads, Misplaced Among Angels and Paper Plane. These two songs are extremely important in the overall design. You want the record to give the listener a chance to breathe, a chance to take a break, a chance to recharge its batteries, and these two songs do that. You also don't want them to be too far apart from one another because you don't want the record to feel like it has too many pauses. So if you're going to slow down the album, you might as well slow down the album in the middle and very close together so you can get that experience out of the way. You can have that moment of clarity, if you will, and then re-engage the listener with the second half of the album, which is as strong as the first half. At the end of the record, you have Arabesque, a 10-minute song that's nothing more than just an absolute epic track, both musically and vocally. The perfect bookend to finish off this album. Actually, when you look at the opening track and you look at the closing track, they have so many similarities on how different they are from the rest of the album and how together they come in order to encompass the overall experience. Perfect design for an album that has this sort of sound experience. And the sound experience that you're going to get on this record is perhaps a little bit less symphonic than I was expecting coming in. In previous albums, I always felt like the symphonic elements went over the top. They were just larger than life. The album really lived off of the orchestrations, the choirs, and it became a little bit less about everything else and a little bit more about that. Sometimes when you have records like that and records that go almost towards the 1 hour mark, it starts to overburden the listener. It starts to become too much, too many layers, too much thickness in the overall experience. You start to add elements that you don't really need, and it takes away from what actually is driving the songs, what's actually behind each and every single track. I feel like they controlled that a little bit better, or a lot better I should say, on this album. They took everything that the record didn't need it and allowed the album to be a little bit more bare bones all around. Now, there's still symphonic elements, there's still orchestrations, there's still choirs throughout this entire record, but they're not overburdening the listener. They're not controlling the experience. They're not controlling the atmosphere. They're not there ad nauseum that you're not even able to feel the power of the guitars and the drive of the vocals. This record controls the symphonic side of the band a lot more. It keeps it in check, it uses it, but it doesn't abuse it. Allows the album to be a little bit more power metal driven and also have an arena rock vibe. And when you come into the arena rock vibe is where you feel more of the stripped down effect that the record offers. When you move into the power metal side, you feel more of the drive, the push, the momentum that this record has. Having these two main focuses as what starts the songs, as what drives the songs, as what pushes the songs forward, and then using the orchestrations, using the symphonic elements more as a gap filler in order to make the sound feel a little bit clearer, in order to help define the atmosphere, is a much better solution for an album like this. The album sounds better, it sounds richer, it feels more organic, and it's definitely easier for the listener to progress from song to song and take everything that every song has, come to the end of the journey and feel like you're ready to go back at it again. You don't feel burdened by it. It's an album that feels very simple to listen to, easy to digest, easy to enjoy, easy to connect with. The sound on this album is phenomenal. Sometimes less is more. This record is definitely proof of it. Now, you can still talk about the impact that the orchestrations have, that the symphonic elements have. Like I said, they're not a driving element, but they have an impact. They have a subtle impact, specifically within certain songs, in order to create an ebb and flow and change the dynamic of the tracks, so you don't have everything starting off in the same place and finishing off in the exact same place. They change the routines of the songs. They add a little bit more a flair to how the tracks come across, but always very subdued. I really feel like this was a winning thought process as far as orchestrations are concerned. Now, overall, this is perhaps an album that's driven by two elements that are more traditional to classic power metal, less tradition to symphonic power metal, and that is the guitars and vocals. This album has phenomenal guitars, phenomenal vocals. These are the pillars, these are the foundations that build the entire sound experience on this record. The guitars have a lot of a rock vibe. Even the songs that feel more power metalish, that have more of that drive to them, that have more of a heaviness to them, even those songs still feel like the root of the riffs, the root of the existence of these tracks was just pure rock and roll. It's there, the organic factor is there, the warmth is there, the rich sound that builds from it, it's very noticeable across each and every single song, and because of it, you see the guitars coming into the forefront very free. The guitars sound loose on this record. They don't feel like they're there to complement something else. They feel like they're there to give you a point of focusing, that you can control it, that you can look at it, that you can hold it. Really interesting aspect for this album, something that I feel like it's quite different on this record than some of the previous albums from Avantasia. This record depends a lot more on the guitar sound to connect the listener with the overall experience. Now, the other element, like I said, the other cornerstone, the other pillar, the other foundation is the vocals. Phenomenal performance throughout, not just by the incredible list of guest singers, which includes Jorn, it includes Floor Jansen, Ronnie Atkins. I mean, there's a who's who on this album. Really incredible singers that are adding value to each and every single song with their own delivery, with their own style, with their own approach. But Tobias is also phenomenal on this record. This is one of the best, if not the best, vocal record that Avantasia has ever released. The vocals on this album will speak for itself. Phenomenal performance, song in and song out. You're just mesmerized by how much the vocals are giving this record and how much everything else is allowing the vocals to move into the forefront and have that predominant role. The vocals on this album are not just telling stories. They're doing that, but they're not just doing that. They're giving a little bit of an image to what those stories are all about, to the characters, to the moments, to the way the songs move, to the overall feel and vibe, to the atmosphere of the tracks. The vocals are doing so much on this record. They have so much clarity, they have so much warmth, they have so much texture, that you cannot think about this album and not immediately gravitate to how important and how powerful the overall vocal performance was. Like I said, by Tobias and by everybody that he guested on this record. Incredible choice of singers that added value to every single song, but they didn't just add value. They brought a little piece of themselves, of the bands that they represent, into the construction, into the sound experience, and into the atmosphere of those specific tracks. All around, this album just feels like it's one of their best, if not their best record to date. I'll say this much, this is my favorite Avantasia album ever. I've always enjoyed this band, but I always felt a little bit burnt out by the end, by the time I reached the end of listening to one of their records. I enjoy the experience, I enjoy navigating through it, I enjoy all the ebbs and flows, but when I get to the end of the record, I just feel like I need a pause, I need to go and do something else, listen to something else, before I can reconnect with the album. Always too much for me to digest, always too much texture, too much substance, and sometimes there were elements there that I never really felt like they needed to be there. This album is completely different. This album feels a lot more organic, a lot more stripped down. It has a lot more power. It's a lot more guitar dependent. And then it has, like I said, some of the best vocal performances that they have ever recorded on an Avantasia album. When you put all of that together, it really stands out as one of their strongest records. To me, it's my favorite album from the band because it's one that I've never been tired of listening to, and I've gone through it plenty of times. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Kill the Pain Away, featuring Floor Jansen. The choirs and orchestration on this song bring a little bit of an epic vibe into the forefront. I would dare to say it brings that symphonic element into the forefront, mixing in really well with the power and drive that the song has musically. it has also this arena rock sound. So it feels less like a symphonic power metal song. It feels more like a rock song that has symphonic elements, because it has a little bit of a stripped down nature to it. This allows for the track to have great ebbs and flows. Both vocalists are outstanding and they feed off of one another, and this allows the song to have a lot of movement. The chorus is very explosive, and that's something that you could be said about every single song on this album. This album is full of hooks, catchy choruses all over the place. There's not a single song on this album that doesn't have one of those memorable choruses that you're going to be singing in your head forever after listening to this record. This song is a perfect example of that. It's a song that also gains in size as it moves. The way it blends the symphonic elements with the more arena rock, with then some metal elements, allows the track to be energetic, allows the track to expand, gain momentum, and gain size as doing so. I really enjoy this song, one of my favorites in the album. Next I have I Tame the Storm featuring Yorn, a more power metal, straightforward power metal song from beginning all the way to the end. When you look at the sound, when you look at the vocals, killer bass line that really helps the vocals leave a mark on this track, and then the growth that the song has leading you all the way to the chorus. I mean, this track has linear growth, actually that becomes exponential growth as you start to move from the beginning of the verses all the way to the moment where the chorus hits. You see the volume, you see the size of the song, the chorus is bombastic, outstanding guitar solo that adds incredible value, really complementing the song and allowing the song to feel complete all around with such a creative, over-the-top, dynamic, fluid, energetic, explosive solo that matches the momentum, that matches that power metal sound that this song has straight through from beginning all the way to the end. Last but not least, Paper Plane featuring Ronnie Atkins, the second ballad on this record, very stripped down. The thing that I took away from this song, outside of the incredible vocal performance, is how the synths and keyboards work on this track. At the beginning of the song, it feels more like a synthesizer creating an atmosphere that blends into the overall sound experience. Then as the song progresses, it becomes more of a piano, becomes a little bit more classical, and that creates darkness, and it allows the song to have a different kind of life and change an element that's still very similar, but allow it to also grow as the song progresses. Now the chorus is as the verses, very stripped down, perhaps with a little bit more volume, with a little bit bigger sound, but it still has that stripped down effect to it. Even though they added more to it, it didn't feel like what they added changed the overall chemistry of the song, changed the overall dynamic of the track. Interesting song all around, outstanding ballad. I mean, the ballads on this record, both of them are phenomenal. This one, because of the darkness that it brings, the atmosphere that it creates, the piano sound, how that matches with the vocal performance, with how these two vocalists really work the track well from start to finish, allows this ballad to feel different from the previous ballad, and then feel different from anything else that the album offers, while still using a lot of the same elements that you're going to see throughout the entire record. This is it. This is Avantasia with A Paranormal Evening with the Moonflower Society, out October 21st on Nuclear Blast. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.